Hi guys, it's Aegis here. So today I'm here with my Touken Ranbu deck, and since I actually play tested out and decided to add something that is a little bit higher rarity like the triple rares, the deck is updated, and of course it's not completely full upgrades, but it's somewhere that I feel comfortable at and that I don't need to spend too much money on the cards because I don't crack boxes of this set. I only bought 2 starters and buy singles, and since most of the content of this deck you can actually get it from the starter and add a little bit to make it stronger, so here we are. And the right line of course is so simple. It's just full of Kashuu Kiyomitsu Kiwame and like normal one, Sento and Toku. Basically just those. And except the grade 3, you probably won't see any other parts appear again in the deck because grade 0 is just a starter. Grade 2 as regards only plus 2k, so you rather use the space to put something that have more effects instead of just the 2k. So right line is here. And let's get into the main deck. Of course we do have a free more Kiwame for personal ride and also for the soul, because Kiwame requires you to counter blast 1 and soul blast 1 in order to use the effect, which is take the top card of your deck, put it on top or bottom of your deck, then draw one. So you're kind of able to control what you draw. If the card you take a look is something that you want, you draw it. And of course there are also a lot of cards that allows you to check your top deck so that you can plan yourself what you want to draw the card, and then start to plan some triggers. And also he got a skill which is a permanent skill during your turn. If you don't have any face-up damage, so including if you don't have any damage, he will get 10k plus. So the mission you have with this deck is try to use your counterblast, fully use them every turn, but of course don't take too much damage, so you need to spam too much counterblast and kind of recover from that, and then use the 10k plus to keep swinging, force your opponent some guards, and because you know some cards that remains on the top, then from there use those information to trick your opponent and again force them more cards. And if they do a 2-pass and you know what's the top 2 cards you have, then you can just quickly just get in. Very simple. And next, this is also a card from the starter, which is Hishikiri Hasawe. So this I remember you only get 3 copies of this card in your deck, trial deck. So if you do actually want a 4th copy, you will need to get 2 of them, which again is something that you can try to replace if you don't want to buy 2 of them. But I buy 2 because I do want 2 sets of the counters, so I do have enough, and shouldn't be too hard to find an extra copy if you really do. So the main use of this card is to use a skill. When it appears on regular circle, check top 2 cards and put them in any order back to the top. So once you see 2 of those, you can at least pick one to draw, and hopefully the other one is a trigger so that you can use that. Or even if it is not, then you can put the card that you don't want on top and the card that you want at the bottom, and use a Kiwame skill to put the top card to the bottom and then draw the card you want. So there's so many ways that you can make use of this card. Even just looking at 2, doing some arrangements can sometimes trick your opponents, because if you look at 2 and you switch the order, then your opponents might think, okay, the top one might be a trigger, or at least it could be a draw because he exchanged the position, so it's likely a draw so that he can draw the next card, and from there they will have a lot of thoughts by themselves, and that's where you're going to trick them. And then the key card of the set, not the deck, is Mikatsuki Munechika. So of course he's the ace that we all know. he appears like as the key card in like old versions, and he is also still a key card in Touken Ranbu. Basically, he can be used in any of the build. So if you do crack the set and you have 4, feel free to use 4. You can replace 1 from Asabe as well. But since I don't want to put too much budget on it, I am using 2. And since his skill actually quite cost heavy sometimes, so I'm using 2 just in case I need it. And his skill is when this card attacks once per turn as a reguard, based on the damage you have, you apply the following effects. If you have 3 or more, you have 5k. Then if you have 4 or more, look at the top card, put it on top or bottom, which fits the stack very well. And if you have 5 damage, counter blast 1 and soul blast 1. By doing so, you stand this card. So you're allowing yourself to have extra attacks, not only 3. And if you're on 5, you put all your damage face down and stand this card, then your Kiyomitsu can also get an extra 10k just by his own skill. So helping you a lot, but you do have other cards that use Counter Blast, even Kiyomitsu is using Counter Blast, so you might not be able to use the resent effects that often. And it's 5th damage when you can use the effects, so yeah, which is one reason I'm not using too much. Of course, the first 2 skill is quite strong, but I'm trying to use other cards to kind of cover that I don't fully use this card. But to me, 2 is a good number. And then one of the Kokara Sumaru, because this card can help me pick up an over trigger, which is kind of something interesting. In Touken Ranbu, so far in the main set we don't have anything that can allow us to pick up a over trigger, and this one allows you to do so. So something interesting to have. As long as this card stays and the over trigger is not being pulled, then your opponents will need to consider if they want to take her out, because if they don't and you really get your over trigger, and you can get that to your hand. Yeah. And then 2 of the CCO, even though he's 8k, but his skill is quite impressive. First one is this card can't be selected by opponent's card effects, so you can avoid retire, you can avoid prison, you can avoid a lot of things that targets. Because like facing decks like Brandgate, they will try to prison your cards, then this card is safe. If you play against Office, they do have cards that retire regards, primary regards, and this card is safe. Facing Eugene, they can't retire you, so yeah, basically quite great. And his second effect is when your Vanguard attack hits, by Counter Blasting 1 and Soul Blasting 1, draw 1 card, and during the turn this card gets 5k. So he's good for your early games while you actually checking with your right line, because when you write your grade 2 on top of the grade 1, you can actually check the top card to put on top of the deck or actually put into the soul. So from there, since you kind of get some guarantee and you see a trigger, just place him down there, use a Vanguard attack, and should hit, then you can use the skill. And like, if you do want somehow to use up your counter blast, he is a good card for you to do so. Right. Then just a little toolbox, Kuwana Go. So when he attacks hits the Vanguard as a regard, you can choose to counter charge 1 or soul charge 2, which depending on your situation. Like this deck uses quite a lot of counter blast, and after Kiyomitsu attacks, you don't need to care about if he still got a 10k or not, so you can put the pressure on him and do counter charge so that you do have counter blast to use next turn. And speaking of counter blast, I am running 3 of the Yamato no Kami Yasusada. So this is also a card starter. and as long as you write your Kiyomitsu from your Toku, you can get one from the deck. His skill is so simple. Counterblast will get 5k if your Vanguard is Kiyomitsu plus 10 instead. So a simple 20k beater, nothing too much to say. You do want some high power and you do want to use some counterblast, he's a good partner. And next, I am running 2 of the Fudo Yukimitsu. So this is also a card from the starter by it's an active skill once per turn. Counterblasting 1, look at the top card, put on top or bottom. If you put on the bottom during the turn, this card gets 2k. So can be simply a 10k booster attacker, and you can use this skill every single turn. Even in early games, since you only can check the top card when you write grade 2 on grade 1, and only once, so you do want to increase your chances to hit triggers, and he is going to help you to do that. Also a good card to help Kiyomitsu to get no face-up damage, so he can get a 10k. And talking about checking the top cards, I am also running Hyuga Masamune 4th, just because he's free to look at top card, but do note that you need to be on grade 3 or higher so that you can look at top card, put on bottom or top. So yeah, that's basically his use. Because you do kind of running out counterblast quite easily, so there are times that you don't have counterblast for him, so that you can actually use your Masamune to get the job done. And Kodeki Rigo, another way to protect yourself, just a soul blasting one, you can put this card into your Guardian Circle from Regard Circle if your Vanguard is being attacked. So sometimes you do want to put cards on the field, you don't want to save them in your hand because you want to push your opponents through, and this card allows you to push while trying to protect you, so it's quite great. And then the interesting card of the set is Monoyoshi Sadamune. So this is a double rare from the booster, and this card is actually quite strong. So his skill is, as a Pegorika skill, when your trigger effect is going to increase power of this card, the increasing value becomes double. So if you are pulling a trigger that gives him a 10k, then he will become a 20k. Yeah, so actually quite interesting. So why I am using this card is because I do want to push through on my opponents, and at the same time he do have 2 users, 1 behind the Vanguard and 2 behind the Regards. It sounds like obvious, but the way of using this card is quite different. Because if you put him behind the Vanguard, say of course Kiyomitsu usually is a 23k, and you boost with him as say 7k to boost him to 30k. And what happens is, if your opponent is trying to put themselves on say 43 and declare 2 pass, that's actually not the case, because when you put a trigger, the line becomes 50 because it's 23 plus 7 plus 20. So they need to give you more cards to guard or directly draw a PG. And if you put him on the side to boost Regards, then of course they do have an easy time against Vanguard, but then at the same time, once you put the power there, they do need to give you more cards to guard. So that's quite interesting, right? And that's the reason why I'm using this card. And of course, for the booster BG, at first I can't find any, but I'm glad that I actually get my booster PGs on time when I record this video, so I can actually show you. Of course, the extra skill that allows you to just guard with this card if you have basically 1 card in hand, which is very helpful because you don't need to drop an extra card. Yeah, but if you really can't find it, the starter one is still great. So enter triggers. Over trigger, I'm using the generic ones, which is basically give 100 million to units. Of course, you can also use the Touken Ranbu one, the Shinken Hisatsu, which I have been using quite a lot. The card is great, give crits and card power, but I do want some extra pressure, so 2 of the 100 million can actually change the game quite a lot. And do remember, Kokara Sumaru can actually pick it up, so you can get a 50k shield for your usage. And the rest of the triggers are 7 crits, 4 fronts, and 4 heals. So I don't want any draws because you do have a lot of ways to actually use your resources quite free. For example, this can be picked up, and then the Kiwami can draw your cards, so you kind of don't actually lack too much hands. And based on the games that I play, even against Jungle Empire, against Brandgate, usually I still have quite a lot of hands, so I'm not too worried. Yeah, so that's basically the build, and I'm going to show you another build, which is before I upgrade into this build, so you can check out how differently they are and which one you like. So see you in a bit. Okay, so this version is actually a version that I built before I get into the one that I just showed you. So this is the build that, of course, is still the same right line, still the same concept, but the cards is different, and this is how you can actually build a deck quite cheap and having the deck also quite playable, quite strong, and have fun. So if you don't want to spend a lot of money just to get the starters, imagine if you're like me, just mainly go for the counters while wanting to try have some fun with Touken Ranbu, this is the build that you are going to do. So since I've already gone through the effects and I'm not going to go through them here, so of course the right line is also our Kiyomitsu, so normal, Sento, Toku, Kiwami, of course is here, and then 3 more for personal right, so nothing too much to say right there. And then 3 of the Ishikirimaru, so it's something that is from the starter, so you can definitely pick them up right there. Heshikiri Hasabe, so it's something for a starter too, which you should have free, but if you're getting 2 starter, you will have enough, so that shouldn't be something that you need to worry. Shishio, so this is the card that is not in the build that you see before. I just want to find a way to use some counter blast just in case, and he's cheap, so quite easy to use, help you to draw cards, get 5k, and can't be targeted by cards, so you can avoid a lot of prison effects, retire effects, basically those. And then Kokara Sumaru, so that you can actually get the over trigger instead of getting bind or remove from game, so you can use it depending on which one that you do have. And then next, of course, we are still using our ace, which is Yashisada. So he again is also a card in the starter, and can we pick up here, can simply just get 10k, nothing too much to say further. And then Yokimitsu for filtering the deck, Hyuga Masamune for filtering the deck, and then 2 of the Monoyoshi Sadamune just for the power-ups, and then 4 PGs from the starter, so you don't need to find extra PGs. And then of course, if you do have the booster one, do use the booster one. If you're only picking a few booster cards, which are these, and these, then you're basically done, because what we have left is triggers, which is over trigger from the starter, crit from the starter, also crit from the booster, but they're cheap. Front, since you only get 3, then I'm getting extra 1 and then 4 heals. So this build is actually quite cheap. What you need to find are these, or if you do want to use something from the starter, you can still do these, since they are cheap, because almost no one like to use it, but I do like to have it for once. These, and probably a copy of this. So what you need to find is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 11 cards. But if you're getting 2 starters, then you only need to find 10 cards, and these ones are cheap. This one probably don't worth anything anyway, so you can put it very cheap right here. Yeah, so thanks for watching, guys. Let me know any questions you have, and maybe like, are you going to go for a budget build like this, or you're going to upgrade a little bit more like the one before? Let me know, and I will see you guys in the next video. Signing off.